The Pelicans didn't just lose to the Thunder, they got exposed. And if we're being honest, games like this make you seriously wonder if it's time to tear this roster completely down and just start over. Let's take a look at it in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pelicans, your daily New Orleans Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On Pelicans, the daily podcast covering your favorite team, the New Orleans Pelicans and NBA, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, available wherever you get your podcasts and available on YouTube. I'm your host, Pelicans Insider, credential member of the media, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter, here with you on this Tuesday, day after the Pelicans get blown out by the Oklahoma City Thunder, 126-109. That one's not as close as the final score indicates at all. This was about as bad of a loss as we have seen in a long time, and it's this kind of loss that makes you go, is this worth saving? Is this roster worth trying to save or figure out or any of that? The answer, truthfully, is probably no. So let's look at what that means for this team going forward. I want to give you some reasons to keep watching. The rookies are there, but there's also some other reasons too that I do think are important. And then I want to get into something that no matter what, New Orleans is going to need to find a way to do, and that's generate more three-point looks. Winning, losing, that's something they have got to get done. So we're going to cover it all in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. And of course, thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are here Monday through Friday, the number one Pelicans podcast covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Join over 12,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube as well and become an everydayer. That means you listen Monday through Friday to Locked On Pelicans. And if you're an everydayer, let me know in the comments down below. You can also watch us on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. Same place you watch your Pelicans play. So let's get into this one. 126-109. New Orleans just getting blown out of the gates in the first quarter here. 49-24. They more than doubled the Pelicans score here. And the game was just done, right? The game was just done at that point in time. Oklahoma City led by as many as 30 in this one. And yeah, it looked a little bit more respectable in the fourth quarter here. You still almost lost by 20, and most of that was garbage time where the Thunder were actually playing like backups and the Pelicans were playing their starters. This isn't just a loss. This is getting exposed. This is embarrassing. And this goes beyond the coaching change. A loss like this makes you go like, Willie Green wasn't the whole problem. We've never said he's the whole problem. He was part of the problem. He was the problem that you could fix the most right away. But this shows you that the roster is very flawed. This goes beyond Zion Williamson not being in this game. Questionable again, didn't end up playing. No Jordan Poole either. When you look at this, would they have done anything? Would they have changed much about that first quarter? Maybe a little bit, but you still weren't going to win that. And when it looks that bad, that makes you wonder if a complete teardown is needed. Do they just need to blow it all up? What's the point of bringing Zion Williamson even back at this point in time? So it's not great. You know, the coaching change was just the start of the changes that they need to make. Joe Dumars said in his media availability after firing head coach Willie Green that, you know, they've only been here 6 months. They can't turn it around in just 6 months. It's going to take a whole lot more work to be able to do that. But you look at some of this, it's not good. You know, you do see guys at times out there not caring, not trying, at least on the defensive side of the ball. You look at guys not communicating at all on defense and doing what they need to be doing. That's not just a coaching thing. This is just the players themselves. You can't force them to talk on defense. You can't force them to give effort on defense. And you are limited somewhat by the players that you have. And you're not going to make trades right now. Nobody would trade with you at this point in the NBA. There's only so much that you can do. And so I want people to kind of keep that in mind. A lot of this, what we are seeing, and this isn't to give James Borrego a pass, but James Borrego has had 2 games in charge, and he's had 1 practice. The team will not practice on Tuesday before the Wednesday game because they just played a back-to-back. You know, I don't think people realize how limited your practice time is at the NBA level during the season. You barely do. So this is just throwing Borrego into trial by fire, and we shouldn't have really expected it to go any other way. But the players can care more. They can try harder. That's a player's thing. They shouldn't need a coach to motivate them, but at the same time, the coach has got to find a way to get them doing that sort of thing. Now, it's also compounded by the fact that OKC is tough. This is by far the best team in the league. What you've seen here, they do to a lot of other better teams than New Orleans. Gilgeous-Alexander hasn't played in like 7 fourth quarters because he hasn't needed to. And he's still averaging over 30 points per game. That's truly incredible here. So keep the opponent in mind when looking at this. But the stuff that we were just saying, the effort, the energy on the defensive side of the ball, that's non-negotiable. That shouldn't matter the opponent. That shouldn't matter wins or losses. That should just be the expectation. And you're not seeing that. And so if I'm Joe Dumars and I'm watching this team, I'm making note of who's going to be here and who's not going to be here in the near future. You can look on the court, and I'll let you determine who those players are and be like, that guy ain't it. This whole roster isn't it. I think we can all agree on that at this point. It's not worth investing in this team at the trade deadline to make them better. We've heard some people say maybe they try and make a win now move. I've heard some national media say that. Under no circumstances should they be trying to do that. Under no circumstances should you be going for giving up future draft assets in any capacity for players. If they do that, there's a bigger problem here. This is a team that needs to have some self-awareness, a franchise, and I mean that all-encompassing top to bottom, and realize what this roster is, what this team is, and that just, no. You got spanked. You got embarrassed. Their pride should be hurt after a game like this. And we've seen New Orleans get blown out and then respond with better effort and a close loss the next game. We'll see if that holds true on Wednesday against the Denver Nuggets, who, by the way, are also the second best team in the West and look very good. But this loss, as being so bad, don't try and save this. This should not be, we go to the offseason, it's like, well, Zion was injured and that. It should just be, we are not doing this anymore. That's what needs to be said here. That's what this loss and some of the other earlier losses have really just said about this team. It's painfully obvious, and this franchise needs to acknowledge it at this point in time. It's not worth saving this whole entire group. There's some guys that should be back next year. The rookies, right? Some of the other young players too. But I think at this point you can see which guys are untouchable and which ones aren't. And I'll leave that up to you to decide. I don't know if we have a full-on determination yet, but that's what you should be using this period of time for. This team is lacking pride. They are lacking competitiveness. They look soft. A coach can't make them not be soft. You could try, but I don't know if that's going to work. This is something the players need to respond to, and they have shown this season, and even in seasons past, they are not capable of doing that. That means this isn't worth saving, that some of these players aren't worth keeping here on your roster. We'll see what ends up happening in the run-up to the NBA's trade deadline, because that's going to be really interesting for the Pelicans now. And that should shape everything that they do going forward. Coming up next, there are reasons to keep watching. There's a lot of reasons, actually, to keep watching. I want to run down some of that. Things I'm going to be watching for as the season goes on, wins and losses, all of that. That's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by Rippling. If you're a business owner, here's the truth. SaaS promised to make work easier, but now the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together. That's not SaaS. That's sad. Software as a disservice. That's why you need Rippling. Rippling is the unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. What I love about Rippling is how it removes the bottlenecks and busy work that just slow teams down. Everything from onboarding to payroll to IT access runs automatically and perfectly in sync. So whether you want to run your entire HR, IT, and finance operations as one, or you just want to fill the gaps in your software stack, Rippling can do it all. all. And right now, you can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/lockedonnba. Learn more at rippling.com/lockedonnba. That's rippling.com/lockedonnba for 6 months free. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is also brought to you by Prize Picks. We make decisions every single day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season. So whether you're following the NFL, NBA, or both, there's no better time to jump in on the action. And if you haven't tried it yet, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least two players' stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play Prize Picks anywhere it operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. So you can do both football and the NBA on Sundays to keep all the games more exciting. You can pick your favorite players like Jeremiah Fears or Derik Queen alongside Tyler Shook now. And the new Stacks feature is a game changer. You can pick more on Derik Queen's points and rebounds and blocks in the same lineup. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast, covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and join over 12,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube as well. And don't forget, you can watch us on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Locked On, by the way, the #1 sports podcast network. We got a lot of number ones here. Someone's succeeding. That's great. Programming note for those who haven't heard just yet. I'm getting married this weekend. I'm very excited about that. I'm also very excited to go on the honeymoon immediately after. I'm going to be taking about 3 weeks off of Locked On Pelicans to actually unplug for maybe literally the first time in my life. So Dylan Sanders, you've seen him on the show a lot recently. He will be taking over. He will be hosting Locked On Pelicans. I will be back. My first show back will be December 15th. And I can't wait. I'll be catching up on everything. I'm still going to be clued in a little bit while I'm gone here. And I'll be back covering the show Monday through Friday for you, December 15th. Dylan Sanders is going to be holding it down in the meantime. But there's going to be a lot to talk about this season. You know, there are reasons to keep watching. I was actually invited onto NBA TV yesterday and SiriusXM Radio to discuss the team. That was actually kind of cool. First appearance on NBA TV. They wanted to talk about the Pelicans, but they also asked, obviously about firing head coach Willie Green, but also they were very interested in the rookies, Derik Queen, Jeremiah Fears, and how those players are doing and what to expect from them going forward. While this season might feel like a waste, and I get that. Like, I truly get that. And in one sense, the season is a waste. It is. But you do have two young rookies that look very promising. I don't want to anoint anyone just yet or be like, these guys are it. But the early returns are good. We'll evaluate this a little bit more, ongoing as the season goes on, but really at the end of the year. But there's reasons to think that these guys can be building blocks. Are they better than some of the guys coming into next year's draft? I don't know. Like Derik Queen still wouldn't go in the top 5 of next year's draft, given what I've seen from these guys in college. But it makes that deal look less bad, I think. And that's an important thing to keep in mind. You can still find a guy that you really want and build around here. And Derik Queen and Jeremiah Fears definitely are those guys. Against one of the top, maybe the best defense I've ever seen. Jeremiah Fears was awesome in this game, frankly. 24 points on 9 of 16 shooting, 2 of 5 from 3, 4 of 5 from the free throw line. Those are really good numbers. He scored against an elite defense. Chet Holmgren is phenomenal, patrolling the paint down low. Isaiah Hartenstein is there as well. You also have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Lou Dort. You can go on and on and on about the players on this Thunder team, and they are really, really good. Really good defenders here. And Jeremiah Fears was scoring. He's consistent, 12 points in each half. It's not like he just got it done in like garbage time or something along those lines. He was doing what he could do here and scoring against an elite defense. That's the type of guy that you can build around. He looks like a lead guard. He doesn't have some of the creative passing a la Chris Paul yet and some of those other things, but as a guy that can just create an advantage. I use the phrase advantage creator a lot, and that's a really important archetype to have in the NBA, particularly at the guard position. And what is an advantage creator? Well, someone who creates an advantage. And you do that by forcing defenses to get into rotations. So you drive from the 3-point line, you beat your man, you draw a help defender over, he rotates, which means someone else rotates, and you keep moving the ball around till you find an open man. It's really as simple as that. By doing that, you create an advantage for your team. Advantage can also just be Zion Williamson, court gravity, 2 people are on the ball, basically on him on all times. It's essentially, do you draw 2 to the ball? And Jeremiah Fears does that. And to do that against a very good Oklahoma City Thunder team, have just 3 turnovers in this game when that's kind of something they really do here, is highly encouraging, in my opinion. I liked what we saw from him. I liked what we've seen from him here. And as he grows and develops, he's going to be a very good player. I'm going to keep watching him. Does the passing come along? Does the 3-point shooting come along? In AAU and other times, like, this guy was an elite 3-point shooter. Went away a little bit in college, but that's also, you're taking on different roles. You're doing a lot. There's a lot going on there for it. So that maybe is understandable. But I think he's been shooting the ball from 3 relatively well so far this year. I'm going to keep watching for him because this looks like a guy that you can absolutely build a team around. And that's, I think, an important thing. Jeremiah Fears is going to be shooting slightly above 35% after this game. That's great. Love to see that from him. Derik Queen is an incredibly interesting player and interesting prospect. He didn't have a great shooting game in this one. 9 points on 3 of 10 shooting. The length of the Oklahoma City Thunder certainly bothering him there. But you've seen the ability to be an offensive hub. You've seen incredible outlet passes from him too. For a team that needs to get better in transition and run in transition more, having a big man that can secure the defensive rebound and then zip an outlet pass up the court, the fastest way you can get up the court is not by sprinting, it's by passing the ball, is a very good thing to see. And these are 2 players that should be able to complement each other very, very well. You see some Jokic in, you kind of see Jokic and Jokic and Murray in Queen and Fears a little bit. And I don't think those are exactly their NBA comps, but you can see some of those kind of skills. And having those kind of players together in position don't make the future feel as bad. I wouldn't say it feels great. I'll admit that. And you've got to trust the front office to build around these guys correctly. And I don't know that if you've been listening to the show recently, I don't have a lot of faith in that. But you can at least see some players here that if you wanted to kind of like rip the Band-Aid off and pivot and do a reset, you could do worse than selling Jeremiah Fears and Derik Queen to the fans and kind of just going with that. Tear it all down, or for the most part, other than those guys, maybe keep Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, some others that you determine, but really try and change the roster here, and you should be able to find that. Trey, by the way, his 3-point shot falling here in this game, 18 points on 6 of 9 shooting, 4 of 5 from 3, when basically the entire Oklahoma City Thunder defense was cluing in on him and was designed to take him out of the game, is a very good performance. You just had problems with like nobody else really helping you out here. But there are things to kind of keep watching for. And the other thing that I was intrigued by was Derik Queen and Yves Missi starting in the front court together. Derik Queen and Carlo Makovich playing minutes together. Is Derik Queen a 4? Is he a 5? What's the kind of big that you need to pair him with? Is it a more, in theory, like a rim protecting, a shot blocking, rebounding big? Let's call that Missi right now, though Missi's really struggling on the glass. Or is it more of a stretch big like Carlo Makovich? We're going to learn all of this. These type of 2-man lineups and stuff are things that I'm really going to be watching for over the course of this game. What about a guy like Micah Peavy, who finally got his offense going in this game? 16 points, 7 of 9 shooting. Love to see that from him. At times, I'm dropping everything that I'm holding here. At times playing point guard and dishing out assists. Actively on, he was good on defense. He's been good on defense. There are some pieces here that are long-term pieces, and it's time to figure this out. And this is the season to do it. And I think being able to kind of see some of these guys do these things, all right, I'm going to keep watching, even in blowouts. I'm looking for little things here that keep me interested, that keep me showing who's going to be there or not. You look at someone like Jordan Hawkins. 11 points on 5 of 11 shooting, 1 of 5 from 3. Like, he's probably not a guy that should be part of the future. You can start to learn this kind of stuff. So even if you're losing, even if this season feels lost, and I get it, there are ways, small ways, to salvage it for the long term. And that's not fun, right? Being like, oh, well, at least we know we won't keep Jordan Hawkins. It's not a fun way to watch a basketball game. But there are things that are going to be very important. And I'm looking for little developments, little growth from some of these guys that I think are going to be really interesting because cool, keep playing Fears, keep playing Queen, and play them heavy minutes because those are the guys that could be the future of the team. Let me know what you find interesting, what you're going to be watching going forward. Coming up next, a couple of things. We're going to look at some of the offense and how the Pelicans can jumpstart some of this. That's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by Robinhood. Your ambition just met its match with Robinhood. You play for the win, not just on game day, every day. Locking in on every opening, beating your PR, beating it again. Channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money. Trade stocks and EFTs, options, futures, and crypto all on one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood Legends advanced tools, or take advantage of the new Robinhood strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself. Expect more from your money. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by Rugiet. Let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve everything, and we've heard them all before. It's just stress. I'm tired. It happens to everyone sometimes. The Pelicans are bad. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support, and that's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. And Rugiet makes it easy to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online. No awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments. And if prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly to your door. The process is fast, simple, and private, and it's all handled by real doctors. It's about confidence, connection, and getting back to the moments that matter. So visit Rugiet, RUGIET.com/LockedOnNBA to get 15% off your first order. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnNBA. And don't forget to use our code LockedOnNBA so that they know we sent you. Rugiet, stop making excuses, start making moves. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast, covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. Please subscribe. Join us on YouTube as well. Watch us on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. If you're not an everydayer, that's okay too. We just appreciate you being here and making Locked On Pelicans part of your day whenever it is that you listen to Locked On Pelicans. For your second listen, Saints back after a bye week. They might get a win. Locked On Saints with Ross Jackson, who's one of the officiants of the wedding, by the way, is covering everything you want to know about the black and gold over the Locked On Saints podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and now the #1 sports podcast network. Okay, let's wrap this up quickly, because one thing that the Pelicans need to start doing is taking more threes. You know, one of the reasons they were never a high volume 3-point shooting team was because of their because of relying on Zion Williamson. He doesn't take threes. When your highest usage guy doesn't take threes, it's tough to generate a lot of 3-point looks. When your two highest usage guys, Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram, don't take threes, it's tough. It's tough to take a lot of threes and kind of keep up with that at the NBA level. And you need to shoot threes. It's kind of as simple, as that, I think, for the most part. And so when that's not happening, it becomes very, very difficult. Well, you don't have Zion Williamson in the lineup. Brandon Ingram's gone. You should be taking more threes. The Pelicans in this game took just 28. They didn't take much more than that the other night against the Golden State Warriors too, and they very much lost the math battle there. They need to find a way to generate threes. This is something that's going to be a really important thing for them to do. James Borrego talked about an area where they can do this, and this is pretty smart. Like, this is where you go like, oh, he's good, and he's got a very brilliant offensive mind, I think, an X's and O's mind. One of the things that the Pelicans want to do is they want to get out and run and play in transition. They are not a particularly good transition team. You really saw that against the Golden State Warriors, where they were blowing fast breaks left and right. But overall, still not. Also, I'm pulling up the play context here so I can tell you how bad they are at transition. They're not good at it. Just as simple as that. The Pelicans are 27th out of 30, so fourth worst in terms of transition. They are really not doing well there. They need to improve upon that. Look, if you're already a bad transition team, and most people think of transition being fast breaks, running to the rim, scoring like a 2-on-1 or a lob or something like that, the pass behind your back to the open man for a dunk, points in the paint, shots at the rim. Look, you can take jumpers in transition. It's called a pull-up. Pull-up jumper in transition, if you want to know what the acronym means. Threes like that are backbreaking. The made three in transition kills opponents. Those type of threes are also open looks that guys tend to make. The Pelicans, given that they're already bad in transition and scoring at the rim, need to start adding some more three-pointers in transition. I think as Borrego gets some time with this squad to implement some of the things that he wants to do, and they have not had practices. He's gotten one the day he was installed as interim coach, the day Willie Green was fired. It's not like you have a lot of time here. As he gets more time, and we'll see if they improve in this, New Orleans, if they're finding ways to get more threes, it could be just those transition opportunities. You're not scoring at the rim in them anyway, so you may as well try and do it another way. And that, I think, is a smart idea. I think you'll also see him, depending on what happens with Zion Williamson, experiment with some lineups. I didn't love Derik Queen and Messi together in this one, but does Derik Queen and Carlo Makovic make more sense? You've got a court spacer in Carlo at the very least, and he went 2 of 3 from deep in this game. There are ways you can try and find some of this that I think will work, but they need to find a way to make more threes because you don't have the excuse of Zion Williamson's out there and Brandon Ingram's out there. And this is important towards figuring out some lineups that will work around Jeremiah Fears, Derik Queen, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, and whoever else you have on this roster. This is the time to start experimenting, to start treating this time as almost training camp for next season, as tired as I am of saying all of that. Let me know what you thought about the blowout loss, what you think about the future of the team in the comments down below. That's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Pelicans. We got more to come in tomorrow's episode. We'll break down more offense, more to the young players. I'll see y'all next time. Yeah, that's where we're going to end the show. See y'all tomorrow.